Eye-opening, enlightening, and educational.
Random people on the street transform from just being a random person on the street to me being able to learn how they define success.
No need to have those barriers up, and that's something that we want to try and break down through this project.
I really enjoyed, as I said, economics and learning how the resources were allocated.
It's great for students who are in those disciplines who want to do social work.
Believing that a lasting change is going to happen as a result of this project, I hope so. I really hope so.
If you make yourself vulnerable, then I think that's respectable.
And it's been personally enriching for me and maybe personally enriching for those individuals that we spoke with.
My name is Beth Roseman. I'm a senior in International Studies, concentrating in Development Studies, minors in Geography and Globalization. I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. I've been a Buckeye my whole life.
Randall Phillips, and I'm a second year here at The Ohio State University. I'm a double major in sociology and economics.
Poverty through Leadership and Civic Engagement is the class. The pilot section was taught in the fall, and there'll be 2 sections taught in spring. The class. The classroom can be so transformative when it's allowed to be that.
The Investigations of Poverty Service Learning and Leadership class was very different from any class I've taken at Ohio State. Firstly, it's much smaller. There was a very small cohort of, I think, maybe 12 of us.
We could all come together and come up with some ideas on how we can strategically help shift the world in some way. Even if it's just a small shift. You shift the friends around you. You never heard of human trafficking before. You never heard of modern slavery. You never heard that 27 million people are enslaved around the world. You didn't know that in Central Ohio, 5,000 kids are orphans. You didn't know that before.
I definitely enjoyed the class simply because of the dialogue between the teacher, myself, and other students. And that's honestly, in my opinion, one of the better ways to learn a subject and be able to analyze it from different angles, because everyone has a different opinion and view on a certain subject. So I do believe you learn more in that kind of setting.
Things that you never thought about before. And then the visit to the Near East Side. And so it's just all these sort of elements together that this class provides, this experiential learning that is not just about what you see in a book, because then it has no meaning for them. It's just kind of they learn it and then they move on. But they can't move on when they see somebody hungry. They can't move on when they actually have to do some work on a farm and get kind of dirty. They can't just move on from that. It's different. The Appalachian Project is not a class. It is anti-class, if I can kind of put it that way. It really is John Dewey was the sort of the father of public education, and he talked about having the educational experience outside the classroom. It needs to be experiential, and that is what the Appalachian Project is. It's a research project just that any faculty or researcher would sort of embrace. The university is very siloed. You have this, the sociologists do this, and the educators do this, and there's some repetition, and something that I think Gordon Gee really wants for this university and one university is sort of dismantle some of those silos, be more collaborative. And I think that's what IPSC does well. in order to sort of keep in that space, providing the opportunity for students to not think about themselves as isolated folk, that their disciplines can cross over and collapse on top of one another and really help push them to think critically outside the box. So developing student talent is about, okay, here are the assets that you have, but let's look at all the untapped potential that you have. 2 of the graduating seniors who have been a part of this project, a big part of their personal statements have been the Appalachian Project and what have they done, because it really has been a hallmark of their college experience.
I would say that don't set your goals too low. I would say that my expectations were formed in part by my parents. As I said, they expected me to go to college, but I want to go beyond that.
I would tell any student who's interested in any form of social justice or traveling, social work, who wants to engage with different types of people, or even just to understand like class social structures. Really a diversity class. It's a really good class.
Where you're like, okay, this is what real life looks like. How can I equip people who think differently or all over the place and get them there? And I think that, out of the box, how can I get people there? Thinking critically about what's in their best.
Step outside of like the little box over here. There's people that aren't being reached. They're not being asked to come to events. And it's like if you live your life in fear, and then you're leaving a whole population out that like isn't getting their voice heard.
There used to be, to me, a very I really feel like we've come full circle about co-investigation, because that used to sort of happen in higher education, that there would be the faculty and the students would be sort of at the same level, sort of experiencing life together. And I think that would be, instead of having this ivory tower or the brown tower and all these different towers, let's deconstruct the towers and really make it about how can we make the world better.